Hello, my name is Justin Haskins, and this is 15 Minutes of Freedom, brought to you by, as always, StoppingSocialism.com. If you like this episode, if you support free markets and individual liberty, before you do anything at all, before you continue listening or watching, please subscribe to our YouTube channel at Stopping Socialism TV. Go to YouTube, type in Stopping Socialism TV and subscribe to our channel, or follow us on Facebook, follow us on a variety of social media platforms. Find us and follow us and share our content. We desperately need your help in getting out the word of the dangers of progressivism, socialism, liberalism, and the benefits of capitalism and free markets. We're trying to reach young people across the country, and we need your help, so please subscribe now. Today's topic on 15 Minutes of Freedom is Joe Biden and his problem with young people. Now, if you saw the last episode of 15 Minutes of Freedom, then you know that we've already discussed a little bit of this. We talked about how Joe Biden has a serious problem with young voters. There's a poll that came out from the Harvard Kennedy School of Government very recently. I think it was at the end of April. And in that poll, which is extremely, extremely extensive, lots of really good stuff. We're going to keep coming back to it, actually, because there's just a ton of material there. One of the things that came up in the poll that struck me as incredibly important is they asked young people, and this is 18 to 29-year-olds, they asked young people, who would you vote for if the election were held today? Would you vote for Joe Biden? Would you vote for Donald Trump? Or would you vote for an independent candidate if that was an option? And 39% of people said they would vote for Joe Biden. 39%. 16% said that they would vote for the independent, and a quarter said that they would vote for Donald Trump. Now, the most important figure here is not the Donald Trump-Joe Biden disparity. Democrats always win with young voters. So that's not surprising that Joe Biden is leading over Donald Trump when it comes to 18 to 29-year-olds. What is really surprising is the independent candidate number. 16% said that they would support the independent over Joe Biden. Now, why does that matter? That's the topic of this episode. The first episode was just kind of diving into that issue. This episode is about why is that occurring? I think something really, really interesting has happened on the left. It's something that a lot of people have just started to realize is going on. I'm a younger person, and so I think I've been tuned into this maybe a little bit better than people who might be older and might not know a lot of younger people. But the left has done such a good job of taking over America's schools. They've done such a good job of taking over institutions across the country, whether it's Hollywood, whether it's the music industry, basically any form of entertainment, in fact. Of course, higher education, K through 12 schools, etc. They've done so well, and they've moved so far to the left, the people who have gone into those fields, that they've created, in a sense, a whole generation of people who are completely intolerant of anything other than really, really far left policies. Now, I actually don't think that young people really understand what socialism is. I don't think they really understand what communism is, what capitalism is, what free markets are. I really don't think that most young people understand it. I think most young people are actually more conservative than people realize, but they don't really know it. They support policies that they think are charitable, that they think are about helping people, stopping racism, stopping homophobia, stopping things that they think are really important to them. They want to be good people. They want to do something charitable, and they see the government as almost a form of charity, and they see socialism, especially democratic socialism, which of course is nonsensical. Democratic socialism and socialism are the same thing. The only difference is there is no difference. Democratic socialism is a type of socialism, and it's just as tyrannical as every other kind of socialism. It's just a matter of who the tyrants are, right? That's really the difference between democratic socialism and, say, having a dictator where you have something akin to what was going on in the Soviet Union and other places. And in many places that people think of of, by the way, as being sort of the most horrific socialist nations, they have elections in those places. So it's not as though having a democracy automatically guarantees that people are going to be free. If you have socialism in any form, it's going to be a form of tyranny. Now that's a topic for a whole nother episode, but the point is that young people, they don't see that. They don't understand that. But what young people do understand is that they want far left policies. They don't want the status quo. They think that everything that's establishment is awful, that it's terrible, that it's corrupt and broken, and they're very disenfranchised. Younger people who are millennials and younger, they don't join associations. They don't join political parties. They don't join groups like the Knights of Columbus and Kiwanis and other kinds of things. Like, they just don't do it. They don't even join churches. Even religious young people have a tendency to avoid church membership. Why is that? It's because they don't believe in which is, I know, kind of ironic, right? Because they tend to rally around liberal causes all the time, but they want to be seen as individuals. They don't believe in tying themselves to organizations and institutions because in many cases they think institutions and organizations are corrupt. Now, there's a whole lot of hypocrisy in this. I understand that. But that's how young people view the world. They are hyper-individualistic. It's all about me. It's all about the self. It's all about the individual. That's why social media is so popular. That's why social media influencers is something that's really taken off on various social media platforms like Instagram, and now you have TikTok and all these different things, Twitter. It's all about the individual. It's all about being yourself, finding your own way in life, etc. So they don't like institutions. They don't like being tied to institutions. And they see Joe Biden as the institutional candidate, as your prototypical, lifelong, establishment swamp creature Democrat. I mean, that's how they see Joe Biden. And I actually think that that's fair. I don't like institutions either. I think institutions are corrupt. Not all institutions, of course, but many institutions are corrupt. And I sort of agree with them. I'm very much a millennial in that sense, and so I get it. So when they see Joe Biden, they see establishment. When they saw Bernie Sanders, who they supported at a much higher rate than Joe Biden. In fact, the same survey asked about Bernie Sanders, and he had 48% support compared to 39%. And independents, when they asked about Bernie Sanders versus Donald Trump versus an independent, the support for independents dropped by 6 percentage points, from 16% to 10%. So that means that a lot of people who said that they would vote for Bernie Sanders, young people, are now saying that they won't vote for Joe Biden, that they would rather vote for an independent instead. And I think that the explanation for that is because of institutions. Now, there was another part of the survey, and you're going to have to bear with me because I gotta find it somewhere in here. But there was another part of the survey where they asked people about institutions. And they said, they asked people, our government has problems. This is how they set the question up. They said, our government has problems. And in order for them to be solved, and they asked people to select the choice that was closest to their own views, they said, in order for them to be solved, we need to replace and create new institutions to address those challenges. Now, they're talking about government institutions. Really radical question, right? 39% of people, 39%, which is a very, very high number, young people said that they wanted to create and replace new institutions. They wanted to create new institutions and replace existing institutions to address the challenges that exist with government. In other words, they want to blow the whole system up. They don't just want to have a better politician in charge. They want to blow up the entire existing system. And that's why they're not interested in Joe Biden. Now, this is a big problem for Joe Biden. It actually is really good news in some ways for Donald Trump, because those young people who were going to vote for Joe Biden, as I pointed out when we looked at the Bernie Sanders numbers, these people lean to the left. They're not going to vote for Donald Trump no matter what. And that's okay if you're Donald Trump. If you're Donald Trump, you just don't want them voting for Joe Biden. And it looks like that's going to be the case. But in the long run, there are some really troubling signs here. Anytime you have a society where a whole generation of people, a vast majority of an entire generation, or not a majority, 39%, a very large group of people in a generation believe that we need to blow up the existing system because it's too corrupt, too broken, too terrible, we got to blow it up. That should cause that should get people's attention. It should cause you to be very concerned, because I believe the existing system is broken. No question about it. But what if we're going to blow it up? What do we replace it with? That's the thing. What do we replace it with? Now, I would love to replace it with a conservative, limited government system that is in some ways more similar to what we had when the country was founded. Let states be states. Get the federal government out of most decision making. Allow communities, local communities and states to make most of the decisions, to raise most of the tax revenue. We need to protect individual liberties. We need to make sure that states aren't doing racist, sexist, bigoted things to people, upholding people's individual rights. Yes, we need to make sure the Bill of Rights is protected. But states should make most of the decisions, and that way people can live in the parts of the country that best align with their personal beliefs, right? That's a really good model. That's a really good system. But that's not what most of these young people want. They want to tear down the system. They want to tear down the Constitution, and they want a revolution. A Bernie Sanders style revolution. Now, again, I don't think they necessarily understand socialism, understand what Bernie Sanders is really all about and how radical he is. But the fact that they want to tear the system down and put somebody like Bernie Sanders in charge is incredibly, incredibly troubling. And so in the short term, this might be good news for people who are pro-liberty supporters, for people who are supporters of Donald Trump. But in the long run, this is really dangerous. We need to start teaching people the truth about limited government, the truth about free markets, the truth about the history of socialism. It's horrible history of failure. It's bloody, long history of failure. We need to start teaching people that democratic socialism is not better than any other kind of socialism. It's just a different kind of socialism. It's just a different kind of tyranny. We need to start teaching people the truth about all of these different topics before it's too late, before we lose our country, because we are headed in a very, 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 very dangerous direction if we don't turn the ship around. And if we don't turn the ship around soon, we're going to find ourselves in a world of hurt. We're going to wake up and we're not going to recognize our country at all. I mean, as it is right now, I think we wake up and we don't recognize our country some days. But if we're going to tear down our existing institutions and build some sort of socialist utopia paradise and put people like Bernie Sanders and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez in charge, we are screwed. We are in really, really bad shape. So now more than ever, we need your help at StoppingSocialism.com. We need you to share our content. Go to our website. We need you to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Stopping Socialism TV. Like our Facebook page. Like our other social media channels. Follow me, Justin T. Haskins. You can follow me on Facebook and Twitter and basically everywhere. Share our content and speak to young people about the dangers of going in this direction. The Constitution is flawed, but the Constitution is the greatest document in terms of government that has ever been created in the history of human civilization. It can work if we go back to what our founding fathers intended. Not in every way, obviously. There are some serious problems, slavery and racism and other issues that needed to be dealt with. And thankfully, we've done that with various amendments to the Constitution and important Supreme Court cases. But the Constitution on a macro level, had it right. Individual liberty is limited government, allowing states to be states, allowing local communities to be diverse and have diverse opinions and live in diverse ways and be the laboratories of democracy. That's the right system, and we need to go back to it now. Thank you so much for listening and watching this episode of 15 Minutes of Freedom. And until next time, stay free.